One of the tricks to reinvention, of course, is you have to look at your life objectively. And that's not the easiest thing to do because you're living your life. You're completely embedded in your own mind, your own thought process, your body. I mean, you're living it. You're in it. And so how does one achieve, perspective? I always use this little story because one of the things that I think it's very hard for all of us to accept is just how much of a product of our environment we really are. Let's say, for example, you're sitting at home one day and Fermilab calls you up, the physics guys, and they say, hey, listen, we want you to be part of our time travel experiment. And you're kind of adventurous, so you say, sure, why not? So you show up, you fill out all the forms, and you'll probably have to fill out a lot of forms because time travel is dangerous, and they start giving you options. Okay, so how about we send you 50 years into the future? You game? Or we can send you 50 years back. Of course, I'm sure some particle physics guys will tell me you can't really go back in time. I mean, it's very controversial. We'll save that story for later. But regardless, in our story, you can go back or forth, 50 years. You probably be, sure, why not? You can see what 2063 has to offer, or you can go back to 1963 and relive the Mad Men years as they're happening. The 60s would be much easier to get through, knowing that it turned out okay. So you'll do the 50 years, but they say, well, that's booked up. Sorry. How about 100 years? And then you start thinking, well, 21, 13, sure. We'll give it a whirl. In 1913 could be fascinating. You get to ride around in a Model T and experience life before World War I and II, and have that perspective. But of course they tell you, well, yeah, I'm sorry, that's booked up too. And then the years keep increasing. And of course, as you know where the story is going, the farther ahead or back in time you go, obviously the less likely you're going to do it because it's dangerous. Your biology isn't going to match. You're going to get a super flu or give somebody a super flu, depending on where you go. But also, too, if you were to go 5,000 years into the future and end up in Tokyo, you may not even know what's happening. Can you imagine what it would be like to be that far into the future? I can't. You may not have any context to understand. Picture somebody from the Renaissance showing up here right now and try to explain to them super, conductors or highways or Die Hard, 5. You can't. There's no way. They would have absolutely no context to understand life in the modern era. And so when you take that moment and you realize that you really are a product of your environment. If you were born in India, you're probably a Hindu. If you're born in America, you're probably a Christian. That your location, that your existence, that where you were at in a particular time and place really does shape your personality. It shapes your viewpoints. It shapes who you are. Then you can kind of learn to take a step back and say, well, wait a minute, maybe some things are right and some things are wrong about this. But I think it's really critical to sort of have those little exercises to learn to step out of yourself, to gain that objective perspective. And then once you're there, you can start assessing what you need to fix in your life. And I think that's really the first step in reinvention.